The Witch and the Definitely Dead Detective by Sadie Brent, Chapter 29. A Path Forward. Evie stepped out of Silver Sage Naturals into the crisp morning air, pulling her coat tighter against the chill. The town square was alive with holiday cheer. Garlands draped across storefronts, twinkling lights spiraling up lampposts, and the faint sound of carolers practicing in the church down the street. Each shop window displayed its own unique decorations, adding to the festive charm of Stony Fork. She paused in front of Top of the Muffin, admiring Tony's display of gingerbread houses surrounded by tiny, frosting-dusted trees. The rich scent of baked goods wafted through the door as a customer stepped out, making her stomach rumble. "Focus, Evie," she muttered to herself, heading toward Marcellus' office. But even as she walked, her mind churned. She'd run through her theories so many times she felt like she was chasing her tail. Could it have been someone in Mabel's coven? Maybe the witch who'd so passionately defended her? Or was she missing something entirely? Marcellus looked up from his desk as Evie stepped into his office, his face brightening with a smile. "Evie, twice in 2 days. This must be my lucky week." Evie returned the smile, sitting in the chair across from him. "I promise I'm not here to badger you about land deals again. Well, maybe just a little." Marcellus chuckled, but the humor didn't quite reach his eyes. He leaned back in his chair, his expression growing serious. "You want to know what I plan to do with it, don't you?" Evie nodded, folding her hands in her lap. "If you're comfortable telling me, yes." He hesitated, his gaze dropping to the desk. "It wasn't just about the land, it was about Lizzie. She saved me when I was a kid, you know. I was heading down the wrong path, and she gave me a chance. A roof over my head, a future. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for her." Evie's throat tightened, but she stayed silent as he continued. "I wanted to build a greenhouse for her," Marcellus said softly. "A big one, where she could grow whatever she wanted. She used to talk about teaching people how to use plants for healing, and I thought, well, it was a way to give back to her." He paused, his voice thick with emotion. "And the rest of the land I was going to turn into a home for kids who didn't have one. Kids like I was, a place where they could learn, grow, have a real shot at life. It was all for her." Evie blinked back tears, her voice trembling as she spoke. "Marcellus, I'm so sorry, I didn't know." He waved his hand dismissively. "It's okay, I couldn't make it happen, but it was a nice dream. I just hope she knew how much she meant to me." "She did," Evie said firmly. "And she'd be so proud of you for even thinking of it." Marcellus managed a small smile, though his eyes glistened. "Thanks, Evie, that means a lot." She hesitated, then added, "I need to tell you something. I think Lizzie was murdered." Marcellus' eyes widened, but he didn't interrupt as Evie gave him a brief rundown of everything she'd discovered so far. Mabel's book, The Monk Should, the shadowy figure watching her. She kept her explanation vague, avoiding mention of the indentations in the book, but she laid out enough to make her suspicions clear. When she finished, Marcellus leaned forward, his expression a mix of concern and admiration. "You're just like her, you know, always sleuthing around, putting pieces together. Lizzie would be proud of you, and so am I." Evie flushed, caught off guard by the warmth in his tone. "Thank you. That means a lot." "If there's anything I can do to help, you let me know," Marcellus said. "And if you decide to go to Joe Stone, I'll back you up, but you're right to wait until you've got more concrete proof. Joe's a good man, but he's not big on theories." "I'll keep that in mind," Evie said, standing to leave. "Thank you, Marcellus, for everything." "Anytime," he said, his smile genuine. Evie's next stop was Beans and Books, where Hugo's finished A Christmas Carol display was finally on full display. The scene of Scrooge's redemption practically glowed with holiday cheer, the tiny Victorian feast illuminated by flickering tea lights. A faint scent of cinnamon and pine wafted from the window, adding a sensory layer that made Evie smile. Hugo appeared beside her, his face lighting up. "Evie, what do you think?" "It's stunning," she said sincerely. "You've outdone yourself." "Well, I had to keep up with your Ghost of Christmas Past display," Hugo said with a grin. "By the way, have you thought about adding music? I've got a record player you can borrow if you'd like." "That's a great idea," Evie said, making a mental note to find some traditional carols. "Thank you." They chatted for a few minutes about their displays before Hugo asked, "How's that herbology book working out? Concocted any brilliant new recipes yet?" "Not yet," Evie said, laughing. "I'm still reading through it. Do you get a lot of people buying books like that?" "Not too many," Hugo admitted. "Most people who are into that sort of thing would go to Mabel or Lizzie back when she was alive. They were the veritable experts." "That makes sense," Evie said, filing the information away. "If I ever need something specific, I'll let you know." "Please do," Hugo said warmly. "I'd be happy to help." Evie left the bookstore feeling reassured by Hugo's kindness and more certain than ever that Marcellus wasn't involved. But as she walked back to Silver Sage Naturals, her thoughts kept circling back to Mabel's coven. Maybe the answer wasn't in the obvious suspects, but somewhere in the shadows of those who surrounded them.